Information is always at your fingertips. We can access things with the speed of light and give instantaneous responses in email. These are all cultural expectations for many students, parents, and staff. Even though we have this technology and the ability to deliver information rapidly, some students and teachers are not getting equal access to information because we are not being thoughtful about how we format it.
As teachers, we have the opportunity to be proactive and build content for students from the beginning with accessibility in mind. You might think this doesn't apply to the average teacher because you might be thinking specifically about physical disabilities that are easy to see. But since 70% of disabilities are invisible, it is highly likely you do have a student or parent right now who will benefit from accessible content. With a few easy clicks, you can make sure that all students have the ability to access quality content efficiently and independently.
There are lots of technologies and resources available to help teachers make learning environments more inclusive and accessible. Here's how one teacher described how Skype benefited sign language users in her classroom.
It allows us to communicate directly through the use of British Sign Language, but also allows students to pick up and us to read the body language in a conversation and other social cues that are just as important when developing communication skills.
Another teacher wrote this about a student who uses Office Lens and OneNote.
She is now using Office Lens and OneNote to enable her access the work from all subjects at school. Rather than teachers having to read work to her, she is now becoming independent by scanning the handouts herself in Office Lens and then using the learning tools to read for her.
These are just two brief examples of how empowering it can be for students when teachers utilize inclusively designed tools in their classrooms. Occasionally, students do need to ask teachers or staff for materials to be adjusted to a format that works for them. For example, maybe they request closed captions be added to a video being seen in class. It seems like an easy fix to do after the fact. However, now that student must spend extra time watching that video again. This can add to the fatigue these students already deal with in their everyday lives. Students do not like to feel different from their peers and might prefer to go without rather than stand out.
We can eliminate all of these issues by creating content that is accessible from the beginning. It will even save time later. Marlee Matlin said it best when she said, "No one should ever have to ask for access. It should just be there." It is imperative that teachers recognize how they can avoid blocking some students from accessing materials and create a more inclusive environment for everyone. Teachers are the best recyclers. We reuse stuff from class to class if it fits the learning need. This doesn't always mean our materials are in a format that works for everyone.
What if a student with a hearing, visual, or cognitive disability walked into your class tomorrow? Are there things you'd need to adjust in your current lessons? How could you accommodate that student's needs?
There are a few easy tools and techniques teachers can use while they're developing lessons and content for students that take very little extra time and will become as habitual as running spell check. In this video series, we will show you some of the best tips for making sure all documents and materials can be accessible for everyone. Headings and Researcher are tools in Word that allow teachers to create content in a variety of ways. For example, you can use headings to create sections for a paper, help a student break down an assignment into manageable parts, or create a quick table of contents. I have used headings with many of my students that struggle with executive functioning disorders when they are overwhelmed trying to manage large assignments. First, I'm going to open a blank Word file to begin my research paper on orca whales and create a framework for our document. Under the Home tab, I go to the Styles menu and choose the heading style. There are several to choose from. For our project, I'm going to start with the title, Orca Whales, then heading number 1, Habitat. An arrow appears on the document, and I can take my heading and I hit Enter. Once I have hit Enter, it takes me down to the next line where I can enter all my information about orca whale habitat. If you type something and place your cursor in that line and then hit heading 1, it applies that heading style to that line. Once my document is open, I then click on the View tab, and under the Show menu, I click the box to open the navigation pane. I can also get to this quickly by clicking on the Page Number button below. This will open a pane on the left. The navigation pane shows all the headings in the order they are in the document. We currently have 2 headings in the list. I'm going to add a few more headings and content to this document. To do this, I click on the Home tab and start with heading 1 and type my new heading of Migration into the document. I now have 3 headings in my document, but I am not happy with the order. I'd like to put this section first. To do this, I select and move the heading and all the content under the heading to the desired location. Headings are really useful for a screen reader user because they can navigate very easily to a specific section by using Control F and then going directly to the section and have all the content associated with the heading. Teachers can make their materials much more accessible for students who use screen readers, have low vision, or dyslexia by creating worksheets that are well structured, can be easily searched, and filled out right in Word. So this document I'm creating on orca whales needs more information from trusted sources. One option is to use Researcher to add information with appropriate section headers. In the ribbon is the Tell Me What You Want to Do search bar. I type in Research, either arrow down and hit Enter, or click on Researcher. The other way to find Researcher is in the Reference tab. When I click on Researcher, a pane opens on the right, and I can research directly from my document without having to leave Word. I type orca whales in the search bar, and my results include sources from Bing and other sources to buy or rent books. I have the option to add another heading to my document where I can take notes and cite sources from my research. I click on the result for killer whale, and it contains many different sources. On the top right, there's a plus sign that will add another heading based on the topic of my result. This one is orca whales. The first source I want to look at is from Marine Mammal Science, a reliable source. I click on it and either write notes or I can highlight parts of the resource, and a menu pops up to either just copy or copy and cite. If I click on the title, it will take me out of Word and open the source in the Edge browser. Once you've added all your information, the headings can be easily formatted into a table of contents. Using Tell Me What You Want to Do, I type Table of Contents, and I choose to quickly create a table of contents based on my headings. Using headings and Researcher in Word allows students to work independently. Teachers can be confident that they have created documents for students that are easy to navigate and use.
Teachers know that creating content goes beyond just getting ideas down on paper, and that creating well-written documents that look and sound professional are very important. Students with dyslexia or other print disabilities have great ideas, but they don't always come across that way because of poor or unclear writing. I'm going to show you how Editor, Alt Text for Images, and Accessibility Checker will help you and your students create content that is clear, concise, and easy for students with visual impairments to follow. One issue I often come across in student work is spelling, spell check, and correct grammar usage. I want my students' work to be professional, but they sometimes can't get close enough to the correct spelling for spell check to work. Students will oftentimes change whole sentences or paragraphs just to avoid using a word that they cannot spell. Let me show you an example. I've asked my students to write a reflection on what they can do in their daily lives to reduce environmental impact on our water sources. Right now, I'm creating a sample to guide them. So the first thing I'm going to do to help myself is edit the document using Editor. Editor has made quite a difference in the writing of some of my students and myself too. When I see a word with a red squiggle under it, I know it has been misspelled. I can then right-click on it, and it gives me correction options. And with the new enhanced spell checker, it has significantly reduced the number of no suggestions and gives choices of words that include synonyms. For a student with dyslexia or other print disabilities, it goes one step further and will read aloud the word choices, adding another modality to help the student choose the correct word. Editor is so much more than just spell checking. As I look through this document, I can see that I have other words underlined that contained grammar errors. I see that the word affect is underlined. It is spelled correctly, but is it the correct usage of the word? I right-click on the word, and I'm told that it might be a possible word choice error. I can see that it is suggesting the word effect based on the context of my sentence. Again, I can have it read aloud to me, including the synonyms. But I am still not sure that it is the correct option, so I click on See More, and the editor task pane opens on the right. I see that this is a grammar issue, and it gives not only synonyms for the correction, but synonyms for my original word so I can compare them. Synonyms help to reduce the energy students spend on low-level processing like spelling, and frees up mental desk space for higher-level cognitive tasks involved in writing, such as conceptual work, composition, and structure. A good example of this is how Editor will elevate the conciseness of language. For example, in this document, I see a gold dotted line. There aren't any rules broken, but the language could be improved. In the last paragraph of our document, there is the phrase, adversely impact us, with the gold dotted line underneath it. When I right-click, it suggests the more concise phrasing by just using the word hurt. If you click See More and open the editor pane, you can see more detailed explanation, along with usage samples. Using concise language for students is important, especially with written directions for assignments. We all need to be clear, and I love that Editor helps me out when I get too wordy. Now that we have looked at Editor, let's look at 2 more ways we can create content that is accessible for all students. The Accessibility Checker is a tool that should go hand in hand with spelling and grammar checks. This document has a photo of garbage floating in water, which is a great visual to add to this sample reflection. I'm going to make sure everything is in a proper format. I open the Review tab and select Check Accessibility. This will open the Accessibility Checker pane and show me where there are issues that will impact users with disabilities. I see that my picture is a problem because it does not have alt text. To a screen reader, this image lacks meaning unless alt text is added. To add alt text, I right-click on the image and select Format Text. Then I pick the Layout and Properties icon. With a few simple changes, my example reflection is ready to show and help all students. We have seen many great ways to create and proof content. When we are creating content, we should remember to use Editor, add alt text to all images and graphics, and check for accessibility using the Accessibility Checker. PowerPoint is the go-to resource for many teachers for both teacher and student presentations. However, students with visual impairments, color blindness, or dyslexia often struggle with navigating and using slide decks. I'm going to show you some strategies that will help you and your students create content that is accessible for all users. It is easy to make your existing decks accessible, so no need to recreate the content. First, I'm going to open a PowerPoint presentation that I already started to work on for my orca whale lesson. On this new slide, I'm going to insert a picture of a whale. When I insert the picture, a pane opens and gives me design ideas. For a student with a visual impairment, this will help the student reach that professional level of presentation that matches their content. I pick a design that I like for my first slide. I choose a layout that isn't cluttered and easy to navigate. It automatically formats the picture and adds a text box for my title and subtitle. It is important to use the preset title so that when using a screen reader, every slide has a title that is visible in the outline view. The picture can tell 1,000 words, but for someone using a screen reader without words, it doesn't mean anything. So I'm going to add alt text to the picture. Office 365 has a great new feature that automatically adds alt text to a picture that it recognizes. The feature uses computer vision to analyze and describe pictures as you insert them into your presentations, and you can alter the descriptions to better suit your audience. To see what's there or change it, I can simply right-click the image and select Edit Alt Text. Now that we have text on our page and a great picture with alt text, let's talk about reading order. When you are reading through a page with a screen reader, it has to go in a specific order to make sense. This is true for all users. In order to determine how a screen reader would read the slide, I start narrator and then press Tab on the keyboard to see a dotted rectangle around the first item or hear what is in the first focus area.
Title text box, caps lock, habitat, map of the world showing orca whale distribution, selected. Text box.
This order should be the same as how you would visually read the slide. If the order is not correct, I will be able to easily fix this, even on existing content, by either using Tell me what you want to do or finding the selection pane in the Format tab of the ribbon. In the Arrange menu is the Selection pane. This tool will open a new pane where I can quickly and easily arrange the order of the items on the page. If you are using a template, this will allow you to enter text into existing content placeholder easily with just keyboard strokes. Once you have changed the reader order to make sense, go back and tab through again to ensure it is how you want it to be. Note that items need to be ordered in the selection pane starting from the bottom, so title, which is first on the slide, appears last in the pane. Starting off with designer, including alt text, and double-checking the tab and reading order is easy to do and saves so much effort on the part of our visually impaired audience members. Teachers often use PowerPoint to present new information to students, as well as keep themselves on track as they teach. These slide decks can also be utilized by students before or after a lesson individually, especially if it's located somewhere convenient like the OneNote class notebook. Making presentations visually accessible is not only necessary, but it is easier than you think. As much as 8% of the male population and 0.5% of the female population has some degree of color blindness, according to the National Eye Institute. One easy thing we can do to accommodate this population is to make sure that color is not the only means of relaying information. Using different shading techniques, like the one in this graph, is an easy way for all people to be able to successfully read a graph or chart. Another way we can ensure that our presentation is visible for everyone is to have a high contrast in color between background and text. High contrasting colors can also help students with other print disabilities, such as dyslexia. Making sure that the words on the screen are visible will make the information you want to convey stand out. Text that appears over the top of graphics can be difficult for many people to read because there can be competing colors around the words. Simple text on a basic background usually has the best visibility. Presentation slides are meant as a guide, not an entirely text-based experience. Some basic text, outlines, and quotes are fine, but it is best to keep it simple so that the viewer can focus on your verbal information. Font size is also important. A 20-point font is typical for a large print book that you might be reading up close. But if you want your text to be visible from further away, consider using something larger, like 36 or 40. It can be important to have text appear at different times for some presentations. The right timing can build suspense and provide great impact for an audience. Try to refrain from using text that moves or animates constantly, as this can be difficult for many people to read. I like to include additional resources in my presentations, especially if it is a lesson that students will be experiencing independently. If I want to create a link to the supporting documents in my presentation, it's helpful for the text on the slide to have descriptive text instead of the actual web address. Using the new Link Gallery in PowerPoint, I can quickly find my most recently used files and add links to those. The file name is automatically used as the link name. Screen readers do a much better job of relaying information to viewers with actual words instead of web addresses. Students with print disabilities, non-native speakers, or those who are deaf or hard of hearing may wish to listen to lessons more than once. This can be especially helpful if students are trying to capture notes at the same time, as they can pause the recording to write something down. Teachers can record videos of themselves narrating the key points of a slide right from within PowerPoint and add captions to go along with their narration. These recordings can be utilized in a variety of ways, but it certainly lends itself to the flipped classroom model. This personalized learning allows students to preview the lesson at home or in a small group and frees the teacher to work individually with students who are finished watching. Teachers might also want to add a script or closed captions to their lesson. Instead of listening to the video and recreating all the audio yourself, we have a great hack. Watch what happens when I play the video in one window and use the dictate feature in OneNote's learning tools to create a draft in OneNote. As it hears the words, it automatically puts the text in, and all you have to do is edit afterwards.
Spy hopping.
The ice floe was about 25 feet square, but it kept getting smaller, I think, through the action of the orca.
And it appears they don't like the location of the floe either.
Finally, before I'm finished making my presentation, I need to run the accessibility checker. In the Review tab, select Check Accessibility. In the new window on the right, I can see that I've forgotten to add a caption to the embedded video on this slide. By adding this text, a person using a screen reader will understand that there is a video there. I can even select the item in the list, and more information appears below describing why this is a problem and how I can fix it. Running this check is my new habit to ensure that everyone has access to this material. It was easy to do, easy to make quick fixes, and something that needs to be part of our daily creation process. It is so important for all of us to remember our diverse audiences when creating new PowerPoint presentations. We have such great tools right here to accommodate audiences with a wide range of vision, hearing, mobility, and cognitive abilities. We must utilize them in order for everyone to be able to see, navigate, and understand the content. Templates are a fast way to ensure that the content teachers create is likely to be accessible to everyone. It used to be so habitual for me to start a new document as a blank document because that's what I was used to doing. But now that I'm aware of how templates can be so beneficial, I will always pause at that step. In this video, I'm going to show you how starting a document with a template can assist students to create content that will allow a diverse audience to follow. Many students struggle with starting a document from a blank page. Using a template gives students a starting point, where the focus is the content and not formatting or where to begin. Templates are pre-formatted documents that are created based on type of document needed. There are many free, accessible templates available in Word. First, I open Word and click on the File tab and click New. I type Accessible in the search bar for online templates and get a list of templates that have been optimized for people with disabilities. I can search for templates in two different ways, either by category or by thumbnail pictures. I am looking for a student report template to help me organize my paper in a meaningful way. I click on Education and see that there are lots of options for me. I see a template titled Student Report, and it gives me a summary of the template's features, including that this template is accessible. The template uses headings and layouts that allow the student to not only have a place to enter text, but to also give tips and pointers on creating an effective presentation. For a student that uses a screen reader and keyboard only, the setup of the template allows the user to use the arrow keys to easily move through the document and insert text. The first section that I get to says Report Title. I am going to enter the title of my report, Orca Whales. Then, using the arrow keys, I can move down to the section where I enter my name. The document is set up with headings that allow me to move whole sections around, allowing the user to easily organize and create a professional-looking document. Once I have written my document and I'm ready to run spell checker, I also have one more step to ensure that my document is accessible by all users, and that is the accessibility checker. Under the Review tab is a button that says Check Accessibility. When I click on this, it opens a pane and inspects the documents for formatting that will not work with a screen reader. It even provides information for how to fix any errors. We have looked at using templates in Word, and now we will see how templates in PowerPoint can create accessible, professional-looking content. Again, I click on New, and in the template search bar, I type in Accessible, and I'm given many accessible templates to choose from. Instead of choosing by category, I am going to pick one by thumbnail. Since my research is on orca whales, I'm going to choose the ocean design. Here we end up with pre-formatted slides that I can enter my content into. When I run Accessibility Checker, I see that this PowerPoint presentation has passed the accessibility inspection and can be used easily by a screen reader. Students who use screen readers can really struggle to visually present content in a professional way. Templates not only help students get started on crafting a document, but also help create a professional and organized document to be proud of. Using templates also ensures that the content I create in Word or PowerPoint is accessible to anyone in my audience. We must ensure that everyone can access the learning materials we set before them. Templates are a quick way to make that happen.
Some of the best and most favored lessons that teachers teach are often self-created using materials from a variety of resources. Some might be from an old book, magazine, article, or curriculum that is housed in a folder on the shelf. There are physical pieces of paper that end up getting copied off as a handout for students. Unfortunately, these documents are not accessible to all. Even though many things have been digitized, teachers still find it cumbersome to transfer these old documents to the digital realm. Well, life is about to get easier for teachers trying to transfer paper materials into digital ones. Office Lens is a free app for your phone or mobile device that turns this book into a digital upload. You can sign on to Office Lens using either your personal and school account. Watch how it works. Here I have a page in an old textbook that I want to use in my class, but I need it to be accessible for a student with a visual impairment. So I open the app on my phone, and it looks just like a camera feature. To assist this technology in getting the best image, I can scroll to tell it whether I'm capturing another photo, a document, a whiteboard, or even a business card. I'm going to select Document. Now, I just need to aim it at the document and hit the button to take a picture. Notice how the edges of the document are automatically detected, and it straightens up the edges. If I didn't quite get it right the first time, I can immediately trash that image and start over by clicking on the trash icon. I'm okay with this one, so I'm going to touch Done. Office Lens automatically prompts me to export this image, and I have so many choices. I could export it to a lesson in OneNote, save it to my OneDrive, Word, PowerPoint, email it directly through Outlook, or send it directly to Immersive Reader if I'm on an iOS device. For this one, I'm going to export it so that I can edit some of the text a little bit. It takes a few seconds, and then it appears on the screen with the choice of Tap to Open. And all of the text from my picture is now in an editable format, so I can make any changes I want. Now I can capture it and edit the lesson so that it meets my students' exact needs academically, and it can be in a format that is accessible to all. Not only is this helpful for teachers to create accessible content for students, but this is a tool that students can use independently. There are so many students and adults, for that matter, who find it difficult to listen and take notes at the same time. If the teacher is writing notes during a lesson on a whiteboard or a screen projector, students and teachers can use Office Lens to capture what was written during that lesson and make it a document viewable and editable later. Students can also use Office Lens combined with the Immersive Reader to have the text read aloud with simultaneous highlighting and to increase text spacing and font size. Office Lens is a revolutionary tool for the educators to help in this shift from copy machines to screens with materials that are accessible for everyone.
Many classrooms are going completely paperless by using OneNote, and teachers, students, and even parents are loving it. Students have access to all materials and information at their fingertips at all times, with no heavy backpacks or misplaced work. Now is the time to go back and ensure that all your materials are accessible for all your students. We are going to look at ways to make your existing content accessible without having to recreate everything. I have a OneNote notebook that I use for a marine mammal unit on orca whales. It contains great resources, documents, and pictures, but currently they are not accessible for all my students. My notebook is broken down into different sections, and I will need to go through every page to ensure that all my students can access the materials. My first page has pictures and tables that give great information but aren't accessible. The first thing that I did was to clean up the page. I put all the pictures and text in a logical order vertically. This allowed me to make the pictures larger and have less clutter on the page. It also allowed me to ensure the reading order for a screen reader. First, let's look at the pictures of the orca and its skeleton. I changed the URL to descriptive text for the picture to say that it is a link to the Bing picture of the orca whale body parts. This is important because a screen reader will read every character in the URL, and that is time-consuming and not effective. Next, I see that there are pictures on the page. Adding alt text to the pictures allow a screen reader to announce information about the picture, not just that it is a picture. I right-clicked on the picture and selected alt text. The description of the picture is already there. Note that some screen readers only read out the description, so it is important to fill this in. For images with text in them, OneNote can automatically recognize the text and suggest this as alt text. The description of the picture is great, so the user can know what the picture is and gain some meaningful information. There are ways to take that a step further. I added an audio file with me describing exactly what is going on in the picture, describing all the body parts, including color. This is a great way to take a picture meaningful to a user who is either blind, visually impaired, or has a print disability. This page also has a list of web addresses. To make each link more meaningful, I'm going to change the link to the descriptive text instead of the URL. For example, for the first link, I right-click and select Edit Link, and I change the text to display to American Cetacean Society Fact Sheet. Below the link to the web pages are links to listen to orcas in Alaska vocalizing. There are 3 links to show variety in the sounds. From a user perspective, they all look almost the same because the web address is only different by 1 number. This can be frustrating because unless you remember exactly which one you listen to, you might keep repeating or skipping links. To solve this problem, I can change the descriptive text to better describe what the link is about. In this case, I labeled each one as Recording 1, 2, and 3, making it much easier to distinguish between each link. Finally, on this page, we have a table that is nested and doesn't have a header row. To fix this, I take out the nested table, or table inside a table, and put the data into the one cell. In my notebook in the biology section on the population page, I have inserted a document that was created in Word. I originally inserted it onto the page as a printout. The problem is that it looks like a picture to a screen reading program. It is so important to remember to also insert the original document link as well as the printout. This allows the user to open it in Word or Excel and use the screen reader and access information. This document also includes charts and graphs, so remember to include alt text in the original document as well. Once you have completed going through your document, or even after each page, run the accessibility checker to ensure that all components of your OneNote notebook are accessible for all your users. OneNote is such a fantastic way to keep all of your lessons organized. Many classrooms have gone completely paperless. Those teachers love the reduction of all that physical paper clutter.
Skype is a fantastic tool for students and teachers to be able to connect with others across the globe. But did you know that Skype can be utilized within your own class to help ensure that live content is accessible to all? There are so many opportunities for teachers to utilize this great tool to help all kids meet their learning goals without interruption. Students need to be out of the classroom for a variety of reasons throughout the year. When students have a long-term illness, are immune compromised, or maybe are traveling for a school-related activity like sports, they can still participate in classroom lessons live through Skype or access recordings later. Another excellent aspect to Skype is the translator feature. I can speak in English and the person on the other end can hear me in real time in another language. Let me show you how it works. First, I'm going to start a conversation with someone. Over on the right is a small translation symbol, and when I click on it, a pane opens asking me if I'd like to translate calls and which language I speak, and which language the other person speaks. Using the drop-down menu of choices, I can choose which language each person speaks. Skype can translate the languages underneath with real-time audio. Additionally, there's another instant messages section. The languages listed under this icon can be translated using text in the instant messaging text box in real time. Two people who speak two different languages can write to each other, and this tool will automatically translate in real time. What an amazing opportunity for teachers to be able to speak with parents in their native language. So often, schools are forced to ask students to be the translators in meetings with teachers and parents. This allows independence for those parents and caregivers wishing to ask a teacher questions on their own. Also, imagine the opportunities this will open up for students with hearing impairments to be part of classroom activities. Skype is a powerful tool to help all students and families access real-time materials across the globe. The Microsoft educator community has so many virtual field trips and expert speakers who would be willing to talk with your class. Skype allows for communication across physical barriers and now also language barriers.
There are so many opportunities for teachers to impact the life of a student in positive ways. By utilizing the tips you've seen in this series, you can transform your curriculum easily as you move forward.
Teachers must develop habits that proactively help their students' needs. The simplicity of the tips we have shown you makes them an easy habit to form, but the impact can be so powerful. Can you imagine a level playing field for all your different abilities in your classroom? Over time, in an inclusive environment, students can learn to solve problems with teachers instead of feeling like they must always advocate for themselves.
As educators, it is our responsibility to be as proactive as possible with the content we do control. We must shift our focus from assuming our materials are sufficient to ensuring our materials are sufficient for everyone. We challenge you to take some time to look through your teaching materials. What lessons, presentations, or materials do you have already that you can retroactively run an accessibility checker and easily fix? What proactive steps can you take as you develop new material to ensure your content is accessible?
Do you have some tips for other teachers about the ways you've developed inclusive habits in your lessons? Do you have an inspiring story about a student with a unique disability who was empowered to make changes in your teaching? Share your own tips in the comments section of this course. These tools are meant to help all of us create professional documents for everyone. Once, I had a student who was frustrated with making it sound good, and all those red marks on the page were very defeating for him. Once we went through what they all meant and how the tools were helping him, he started to see them as an ally in his writing and not something that was there to point out his mistakes.
I hope this video series has emphasized the same message to you. These tools are here to help us stay on track with maintaining accessible material all the time. It is our duty to use them and teach others to use them so that accessible materials become a basic classroom habit.